Do. All right. Here we are, another Sunday. It's good. Awesome. So Betty and Veronica got done. Hang on, let me see if I can get this more up here. There we go. Here's the whole piece. Problem is, I wasn't able to find the We Only Bring Death piece I started a few weeks ago. I tore my studio apart, could not find it. Normally when I do that, I find other stuff. Couldn't find it. So I might have to redo that one from scratch or do something different. The Conan piece, I've fallen out of love with it. I felt the composition was bothering me the more I was looking at it. So I'm just not going to bother finishing that one. As much as I put a lot of effort in, sometimes you got to realize it just ain't working. But I'm really happy with my Savage Swords of Betty and Veronica piece. I guess now the trick is to talk to Archie Comics, see if they have any interest in my writing and drawing a Betty and Veronica one shot. That would be fun. Like just take the whole Riverdale, because Riverdale works as a barbarian town. And, Betty the barbarian, Veronica the vigilante, Veronica more of like a rogue type character, and Betty more of like, blonde Conan, Viking chick. And then the rest of the Riverdale gang will be fun characters to draw. So that's done. Oh, who knows? Here we go. Good evening. I'm pretty sure, when it comes right down to it, I'm pretty sure Crom cares more about the pretty girls than the barbarians. Speaking of the barbarians, I finally got my comps for City of the Dead. And I opened this up early just to my Patreon supporters. But now it's on my actual art shop. There we go. That'll look a little bit better there. There we go. So I'm selling signed copies of the book. The reason I have so many, if you didn't know, I did the interior illustrations here. It's I got to read them. This massive manuscript for the two novels in this book. Great map. This is the new map for the Hyperborean Age. And there's one of my spot illustrations. And the book exits with one of my illustrations too. Next book I was going to show you guys just fell on the floor. Good thing I'm not. There we go. And in here there are a handful of big illustrations. So these are all actually all in my shop too. So it's like I thought they would get snapped up by Howard Fandom, but c'est la vie. So this book. They're available on my art shop, which should be linked in the area below the video. And I'll do a really tight little drawing and sign it. And there you go. So that's there. I think I should have mentioned it last week, but I wanted to give the Patreon guys a really nice window to try and get these. And art books. Let's grab the one off the floor first. So this is a weird one for me anyway, because it's like I'm not really a manga anime guy, but I don't know. That Italian art book I showed a little while ago from like the 60s, 70s, the really explicit one. The company that published this, and that got me really, really, really curious about what it would take for a book that publishing so many realist. Exploitative Italian European artists doing movie posters and book covers. Get those guys to do a female figure manga, and especially hentai artist. And so I ordered it. It's only like $40, so it was like definitely worth ordering. And I always give something a shot. And it's very much in the manga style, and there's going to be boobs everywhere. If I'm not careful. But weirdly enough, let's see if I can find it without that's just figure work. The figure work's really, really standard. But the wonderful thing about this is it really leans into the cheesecake posing that's so heavy in a lot of anime. Like even like just like how to place the knees when you're doing that panty shot. That's like everywhere. And he really, really goes all over. And there's a whole section on bouncing boobs and everything. And I really can't, spend too much time on it. But it's really well done. Um, and in fact, there's I have Frank Cho's How to Draw Beautiful Women book. And it is good for what it is, but it's very much a retread of what Loomis and a bunch of other artists have already done. And it doesn't lean into like the nitty gritty, what you really need to do that kind of cheesecake artist the way this guy does. Now, I would never want to draw a face like that, but the figure of itself is pretty standard cartooning. So if you want to get better at drawing good girls, I would this is honestly jumping to the top of my pile. If you really all you want to be is a good girl artist and you don't care about the manga influence or not, you can easily ditch it. But bringing some of the bigger eyes and the smaller features helps, of course. This book is pretty awesome. It's from Carrera Press. So you can get it on Amazon. I think I got it for less than 50 off of Amazon, actually. They might have had it on sale, and 37 bucks US. So this is a really, really, really cool little book. I wasn't I got it out of pure curiosity, but it's actually a darn good drawing book. So that's a recommendation. As I'm gonna just toss it off the box over there. Here we go. And the other thing I got, I'm really I've been a fan of Kent Williams forever and a day. And I have most, I think I have most, if not all, his graphic novel collections. But I've always missed out on his art books. Either I didn't have the money for like these really expensive high end books, or they're sold out and they're impossible to get, or the shipping from the US is just as much as the book itself. But a friend of mine pointed me out that there's this Japanese, I think this is Japanese, could be Chinese. I don't know. That could be Korean, that could be Japanese. I don't know. But what it is, it's a collection. I got to be careful of him because he does a lot of nudity as well. Um, but it's a really high quality reproduction of a lot of his paintings at a really good size. I should look before I go. Here we go. No nudes there. I mean, just his oil painting technique. And this feels like slightly earlier work. It looks like Charlize Theron. I've always loved this painting. Love the detail. Look how he's like distorting the structure of the face and like still getting the color and everything in there. So gorgeous. Huge fan of his work. I got some pieces I still need to frame of his, some of his like painted drawings. I mean, just gorgeous, gorgeous paintings. So I think this was, I'm going to say, I think it was around 50. I could be wrong. Might be more, might be less. But I think that's the ballpark for how much it costs. And granted, it's only maybe, I don't know, 40 pages. Hang on, 38, 40 pages. 40 pages of work. So hard to get his work at this size and this, like you can see like the paint textures in here, right? I almost want to tilt it so it's like, and it came up a little beaten up. It wasn't packed very well by Amazon, but my gosh, what a beautiful, beautiful book. So if you love Kent Williams' work and you also, similar to me, have a hard time getting the big collections, this is a great book. So, and on the pile, there we go. Oh, let's see the chat here. Yeah, I love that red end paper. I would like to do more Illos. Actually, but the project right after the book came out, I got two different publishers who came at me to do something I've already talked about. So I think they came at me because I talked about it publicly before. I want to take every Robert E. Howard story and give them the level of illustrations as Bernie Wrightson did in Frankenstein. So yes, it's very much me kind of paying a tribute to Bernie Wrightson's Frankenstein. But I want to just do one story at a time and do the one hardcover book. So eventually we get a slipcase or then a massive collection. And I would have preferred to do it with Throat, but they have no interest in doing something like that right now. So my thought is both publishers approached me, said they wanted to do it essentially as a Kickstarter. So I do all these illustrations that front me some money, then they do a Kickstarter. And to my mind, I mean, the Robert E. Howard stories, all the ones that appeared in Weird Tales, the stuff that came later, its copyright starts from the moment it's published. But all the original Robert E. Howard stories are public domain. So there's nothing stopping me from doing Beyond the Black River by Robert E. Howard, heavily illustrated, where the story itself is in the public domain, but my illustrations are mine. And that would give me much more freedom in terms of what I do going forward. So that's a consideration. So in terms of dealing with the publisher who wants to do Kickstarter, I'd much rather take my time, do 15 illustrations for one story. I double check, but Beyond the Black River is kind of a longer story. I think it's like 30 some odd pages. So if I added like 15 to 20 illustrations, some spot illustrations, some full illustration, like some little scene breaks with spot illustrations, and I could easily do that as a nice 48 to 64 page collection, depending on the font size and all that stuff and all the design elements. That can make for a nice little art book. So that's what I'm leaning towards doing. So I love drawing the barbaric stuff. Oh, here we go. Hey, I gotta say everyone here. Lucifer Riding. Good evening. I like women that look like people. I do. I love other artists like J. Scott Campbell who have this wonderfully cartooned look to all their figures. I'm kind of envious of that. I'm stuck in a more realistic mode. But at the end of the day, I'm much happier drawing real people. So it is Chinese. Okay, that's good because I don't know enough about. I don't have enough art books from China, Korea, and Japan to recognize the script. Mr. DK, I think it's based on global interest. There's a lot of global interest in manga and anime, and I think that more and more people are working in that visual milieu. I might have to get some ice in my drink there because it's all melted. All right, so those are the books portion. This was the art portion. I'm really sad about. I hope it still turns out because I hate to start over from scratch because I got so far into it. That first session, I tossed the digital pencils away, so I can't print it out again. Eek. And I can't even find the pencils for the piece either, like the actual pencils that didn't get cleaned up in Photoshop. But anyway, so tonight, I think everyone saw the Nosferatu drawing, or hopefully everyone saw the Nosferatu drawing used for the thumbnail here. That was just supposed to be one of my pencil daily drawings. But as I drew it, I kind of, oh my God, I know exactly how to ink this. And then I couldn't stop myself from inking. I have other work to do, but it's like, I'm like, oh, I'm going to ink this Nosferatu drawing. And I'm thinking, I was like, oh God. So I'm doing a Nosferatu to advertise the pen and ink Nosferatu I'm doing Sunday, but suddenly I do that one in pen and ink. And maybe I should actually grab it. Hang on. This, just see if my mic cord is long enough for me to reach over to where the drawing is. It's up here somewhere. Yeah, here it is. Boop. So that's the Nosferatu one I did, 11 by 14. So it's like 9 by 11 image size here. So that's, I mean, literally that's almost, I could just blow that up there and suddenly it's a comic book cover. But I wanted to do something a little more different because I am super excited about Robert Eggers' new Nosferatu movie coming up. But I have a long history with the character. As a kid, yeah, I like the horror movie. I saw it, pirate copy, a long time ago. Let me see if I can move this up here a bit because that's where I'm going to be working first. You can see it in blue lines there. So my pencil drawings are floating around to different parts, probably because I moved everything because I was looking for my Viking piece. But yeah, so I drew this. I drew the window separately. I found some ancient buildings here, traced them off um, to be through the window. So I'm going to have some a little bit of light. So through the window, you're going to be implying that there's the sun's rising, and that there's going to be, and the way the light's going to be coming across, it's going to be implying that there's light hitting Nosferatu. He's reacting to the light coming into the room. So it's going to be all dark along here. And I'm going to be drawing. So I got beat up font here. I just literally pulled out in Photoshop, did an outline. I'm going to make it messier here, more beat up as I go along. I traced it off and surrounded it with black just to make it easier to work around. And then I'm going to have this white ghostly hand just floating underneath here. So it's going to be a fun piece. Yeah, so I'm going to start with the face like I always do because, as I always say, if I screw up the face, I can just print out another one and start over again. So it's my way of bulletproofing the work. 005. This one's a 01. So I'll put that there. So I still haven't seen Long Legs. I think it's been out for a week. I really wanted to see Long Legs. And then this week we got Deadpool and Wolverine, which my son is really excited to see. So that's going to be great. I'm hearing really good things about Twisters too. Now I loved the Bill Paxton original with Helen Hunt and everything. That was just such a wonderful movie. But I'm hearing really good things in terms of reviews and everything from the remake here. So if you've seen the trailer, it's more of a teaser trailer for the new Robert Eggers Nosferatu movie. There's a hint at what his Nosferatu is going to look like. And I'm really, really excited. Because as much as I like the Max Schreck, isn't that a great name for the actor who played Nosferatu? His name's Max Schreck. That's just such a good name for a vampire actor. So I like the original horror movie. And then really early in my career, after I worked on all of one issue of the Vampire Lestat for Innovation Comics, which was quite honestly a nightmare. There's all these comics histories littered with small kind of scammy publishers. And I'm pretty sure David Campetti, who's still around somehow, would disagree with my characterization of his company. Enough people ran screaming from him that I think it's fair to say I got backup just on my experience here. But shortly after I worked on the Vampire Lestat, there's a company founded by people who ran screaming away from David Campetti. And it turns out they weren't really much better, at least coming from my standpoint, in the sense that they lost a painting I did for their Nosferatu series. See, it's coming together here. They had a Nosferatu series with a guy who would go on to draw Captain America. So great choice in artists. I mean, the guy was really good, but he had no business doing a horror comic. But I ended up doing a painted cover. I was really happy with it, and they lost it. And the male half of the publishing company said, "Well, we'll pay you to do a new one," and they hadn't paid me for the one they lost yet. Right, so he was trying to not pay me for the cover they lost, not even mentioning compensating me for the art they lost. So there's literally no record of that because this is pre-digital. It was an acrylic painting. It was pre-digital. So that was just gone, like nightmares gone. So they paid me to do another one. Still never got compensated for the last artwork, but they paid me for the one I did, and then they paid me for another cover. So that's like that was nice. But then the artist bailed. I think his name was Rick Levins. Don't hold me to that. That's my memory. Might not be good for this, but he bailed to do Captain America at Marvel, which is like honestly the smarter thing to do because then you would have a page rate. I think he had a pretty decent career at Marvel. I can't remember. But I got asked to draw and write the entire last issue of. I think I actually drew another issue too, but it was from the plot. So I was like aware enough of the story that they were comfortable with me writing and drawing it. But it was a lot of fun. It wasn't nothing groundbreaking by any stretch of imagination, but I got to write and draw a whole 24-page comic, I think. And I got to use this very derivative Alex Toth style, which was ahead of the curve because it seems like people are only really ripping off Toth now more than anything else. In fact, I think I put the entirety, because I think I still have all the art. I don't think I sold any of the art for that issue in Nosferatu. Either I have it or it got destroyed in a flood when our dishwasher flooded in my old house. But I ended up getting all the pages up on my old Burning Monster blog. So for a whole month, I ran like a page a day or something like that for most of a month. And that was pretty fun. So you could pretty much give away the whole comic for free. I think the male half of the publishing company, I think it was him and his wife. I don't know if they're still together or not. But I think he's selling the collected Nosferatu on his website. So that would have like, I think 2 issues by me, one of them written by me. Hey, Edie, from New York City. You developed any skills for avoiding scam artists and people who don't pay their bills? I don't know if it's like a skill set as much as you have to trust your gut. If any part of someone, I mean, there's some pretty predictable scams, so you just keep your ears open to like what your friends are going through. Like there's a scam going around now where people want to pay you to do a portrait of a friend or a pet or something, which is already weird for people who are. I mean, I've done it as a professional. I've done portraiture, but it's a rare ask. So right now, if someone says, "Okay, If they want to ask you to do a portraiture, I do fuck you pricing. I have no interest in doing portraiture for strangers. If I want to work on likeness, either I'm being well paid by a reputable client who I have some sort of connection with right off the bat, or it's someone I want to draw, like a celebrity, like the Last of Us pieces I did. So what I do is what's called fuck you pricing. It's like you give them a price that is too high for the job. And if they say yes to fuck you pricing, there's a very good chance what they're going to do is they're going to overpay you and then ask for the partial refund while you're waiting for the money to come through. And that's where the scam kicks in. So yeah, never. I hate to say it. The thing you got to do is take the money in advance. Any potential job that sounds too good to be true is. And be very, very, very careful with everyone you work with. It's just literally the way to go. Have to start. Yeah, I gotta say, Colleen Duran is easily one of the best resources in this industry. It's weird how there's still some people out there who want to say bad things about her, but I've yet to experience anything bad from Colleen, and only truth. So Colleen Duran, I mean, yeah, I want you all to like support my $1 a month Patreon as well. But Colleen Duran has a great Patreon where she gives all sorts of like long gems of wisdom from her surprisingly long. I mean, she started so young, but her surprisingly long career. I mean, she's so talented and so young looking and everything. You just kind of go, how could she have been working in comics that long? But she started so young. I'm kind of happy with how freaky this face is looking. Let me just get some more. Yeah. There's this great movie where Willem Dafoe, who's also in the Eggars Nosferatu movie, where Willem Dafoe plays a real vampire it's called Shadow of the Vampire. And John Malkovich plays the director of Nosferatu. And he makes up Max Schreck because Max Schreck is actually Willem Dafoe's vampire, and he does everything to get his movie made, including letting his leading lady get attacked by the vampire. And it's got Carrie Elwes in it. It's just a brilliant, brilliant movie. And I think it's got Udo Kier in it too, so it's got like some really Euro cred going into like what it's doing in the movie. And it's just such a brilliant little creepy movie with like John Malkovich, Willem Dafoe, Carrie Elwes, and like so many other like really, really stupidly talented actors. And it's just a great movie. I want this shadow coming across here. Just slowly building up like this. Getting good in focus. 005 rendering here. Werner Herzog's movie, that was the one in the 70s, right, with Klaus Kinski, which is also an interesting. I mean, Klaus Kinski was a fucking train wreck of a person. Well, I probably shouldn't have said that. I mean, you do any research into him, I mean, he's just. I'm convinced that Klaus Kinski had serious mental health issues. And there's stories of him assaulting his daughter, spouses. There was this weird Italian production of Nosferatu in Venice, I think it was called. And I can't believe the actress finished the movie, but apparently he kept, during scenes where he was supposed to just be aggressive with her, he was literally going too far with the actress, if you know what I mean. I don't know what I'm allowed to say on YouTube anymore, so it's like I figure it's probably best not to use certain words. But Klaus Kinski was a monster, and it's probably a good thing he's passed on, because when your own daughter has nothing nice to say to you, and she suggests that there was some very terrifying, typical things of a monster to have happened while she was alone with him. Can't celebrate him. I mean, he's dead, so you can like. It's a little. I kind of got this rule. It's like if they're dead and they can't hurt anyone anymore, then I don't bother. It's like I avoid Roman Polanski movies. The ones he made since he fled the U.S. to avoid criminal charges. But I still watch like the stuff he made before. Along the idea is that Roman Polanski doesn't really exist anymore. The one that exists now is this criminal. Maybe that's not enough. Maybe that's too soft a stance, but that's the one I've been taking for a long time. Am I going too off here? So you can see the way I'm actually like angling my rendering. I'm trying to get a sense of the way that the light's pushing the shadow away. So I got these lines are actually moving outside the hair. And then he's got this weird kind of clumps of hair. I gotta tell you, first time I drew Nosferatu, I drew him, I think, completely bald because that little bit of hair in the back of his head just didn't make any sense to me. But as I get older and I see more men with male pattern baldness, I understand why the vampire would keep some of his hair. This pupil might be too far off. I might have to fix that or even just wipe it out because I'm going to be doing some splatter into the highlight part of his face anyway to make it look like he's already breaking down the particles. I'm actually going to go over this with a thicker pen in a bit just to deepen shadows and such. I don't know if anyone can hear the motorcycles racing. Yeah, he was. Kinski was great when he had a director who could control him. But my God, I mean, he was so destructive and so self-destructive and everything in between. I mean, it's like apparently he was just a fiendish drug addict, and every opportunity he could to go too far with any of his female co-stars, he did. It was just you just know that if any of that stuff that he got called out for back then happened now, his career would have been Army hammered so much faster, and he probably would have gotten Bill Maher anyway. Trying to see how that using the camera to judge its values. Yeah, I mean the early Nosferatu, like the Strigoi, the early Nosferatu, the ones from Viking legends and everything. A lot of the early Hungry Dead came across a lot more like people who survived a plague or a virus or something. swap up. I'm going to swap up to a heavier line pen. I think this is where maybe in the hand I'll bring it back when I get back down here. Do this. I might do that. I might even use that super fine pen to render the buildings across the way. But for the costume, I'm going to be doing at least the one, perhaps popping over to a 03. Yeah. Trying to really get that rat sense of monstrosity in his face. That was another thing. When I first drew the Nosferatu way back when, his rattiness kind of like I felt it was goofy, but now I think it was actually because I knew the artist I was back then couldn't draw that rattiness and have him be scary. Whereas I think, all these years later, I mean, I was in my 20s back then. All these years later, like over 25 years later, I think I have enough control over how I draw things that I can draw this ratty a face, and it still feels scary. I think this is a scary face. Hammered, army hammered. Yeah, I think it should be that. It should be the term for it. It's really weird that. I mean, so all the stories. I mean, he didn't get criminally prosecuted, so there's always that plaintive. Well, what does he do now? Like it's like no one's owed a career, so I'm always. I had that reaction too back when first stories first started coming out because I'll admit I was like one of those guys who assumed that because I wasn't hearing about it, it wasn't as bad as it was, and the girlfriend I had at the time had experienced all sorts of stuff. A bunch of my friends, the fact that all the women started talking was the best possible result of all that Weinstein, all that incel shit that suddenly came out. The silence was protecting the men, and that needed to end. That really needed to end. So it's like everyone who goes like, so when does Army Hammer get his career back? I don't care. I don't care. Did he go through therapy? Did he actually make amends to the women that he hurt? If he hurt women, again, the story is so vague. It's so much about possibilities, but the Harvey Weinstein stuff isn't. I mean, that's right. Kevin Spacey stuff isn't. These are things that we know they did. So as far as I'm concerned, no one's owed a career post being a shitty human being. So I'm okay if we never see Kevin Spacey in a role again. I'm okay if we never see Armie Hammer in a role again. I'm okay if Harvey Weinstein never gets out of prison, although, it looks like the prosecution dropped the ball there a bit. Terrible people should pay the consequences for being terrible people. I mean, life's too short to have all these shitty people going around continually hurting people because of art. Roman Polanski isn't owed anything. I don't care that there was a deal that was made, and he thought he was, going to just do like a slap on the wrist comparatively, and the judge went and changed the deal. Basically, Polanski was given a heads up. Everyone knows you agreed to the deal, but the judge is not going to accept it. He's just going to sentence you for the guilty plea. It'll be too late for you to change it because that's the way plea deals work. And Polanski fled. And I don't know, honestly, if I did something shitty in the early 70s when everyone was doing shitty things and essentially getting away with it, this is a weird thing. I understand why he fled. because if I felt I had made a deal with prosecutor to get a certain result, and then the judge was just going to change it on me, I probably would flee too, even if I was a piece of shit like Polanski. But while I'm saying that, it's like his permanent exile is a justifiable thing. The way he's like trying to get back into the U.S. because a lot of time's gone by. He's never paid. His exile from the U.S. was self. Tell me if this is boring, and I can change the subject. But his exile was self-inflicted. He fled because he didn't want to pay the price for the crime he did under the legal system in the U.S. So he got to flee. But every time I see like it comes up again, he's trying to like get access to America again. It's like, no, dude, you probably would have been out of prison by now, even if with the full sentence that you're going to be given. Um, and that's how you would have gotten to stay in America. No, no. And it's like the older I get too, the more I think about it. If that was my kid, even though she's saying she's over it, I don't know if she is. She probably just wants the story to stop, and him getting his way and getting back in the States is probably one way for the news people to stop bugging her. But I think you know what, Roman, you can spend the rest of your life outside in countries that don't have extradition to the U.S. And if the U.S. really wanted them, they could have gotten them too. So that this is more shitty stuff going on. Yeah, yeah. The fed vampires bloated and red and Susan sloshing about. Yeah, yeah. It's. Well, have a good night's sleep, Ninja. Um, yeah, it's. I don't think I really. I gotta say, it's like I'm always a little disappointed when people work with someone like Roman Polanski. I don't care, or Woody Allen. Um, I mean, there's an argument to say that people like Woody haven't done anything criminal, but they did enough stuff that what, I don't care how good a director he is. I wouldn't want to work with him. Like I wouldn't work with Warren Ellis if he came back. I got friends who are tied up in projects with Warren, and they're just going to stay with them and do them if Warren ever comes out of hiding. Although he's had a couple of projects, I think. Not my bag. I life's too short to actually take on the burden of working with someone like that. And I got one friend who's like, well, it's he wants to finish a project he started with Warren, so you got to give him that. But it's like, yeah, I wouldn't. Life's too short. I don't. I don't need the burden of someone who's that big a sex pest. And part of my resume. I feel bad for everyone who ends up being part of a production that gets damaged by these people. So, I mean, you're always waiting for like the next shoe to drop for one of these terrible people. So it's like, I mean, so many stories came out about Warren Ellis after the first couple broke. And what do you do about that? Well, what you do is you don't want to get tied up with that shit. You stay away from that person completely. At least that's my approach. Yeah, I don't understand the whole creepy thing too. I mean, it's so easy to ask for permission for anything. And as soon as you don't get it, you stop. I don't understand the whole. I think it's a power thing. Like the one that was in the news and got really quite detailed was the Stormy Daniels Trump thing, where he effectively, I mean, he already been adjudicated a rapist, but if you and I'm not recommending you actually go out and read it because it's a horrible story. But if you've read what he did to Stormy, He basically coerced her into sex under the assumption that since she was a sex performer, she would just do it. Like she had no value in and of herself. It's oh god, he's a monster. Um, so it's this coat's going to be a rendering nightmare. It's going to render everything here all the way down. It's going to be like pretty close to near black in this area here, complete silhouette here. Um, Probably close to black here, and all the way down here. This coat's going to be oh, such a so it's going to be mostly black there. And his coat's going to be there, so that's going to be catching some light. So it'll be black here, probably sign in there. Um, this is going into shadowy blacks here. So I'm going to render into this shadow here because of the letters. Just want a little bit of a hint of light hitting that sleeve before it goes into shadow. So that means a lot of rendering, cross-hatching, rehatching, more and more and more and more until it almost gets all solid black there. And what I might do is I might even go over with a solid black marker and splatter a little bit of white into there. Um, yeah, there was a lot of stories. There was a number of women in Hollywood that got outed for being just as monstrous as the dudes. I have a feeling that there is a psychological power dynamic. Like so many of these people in Hollywood feel they have power, and if they don't exercise it, it doesn't exist. So when you get these actors and producers who generally don't create that much themselves, or mid-tier actors, like I'm thinking of one guy who was in Entourage, Jeremy Piven. Um, Happily, he didn't come back. Basically, there was a an actress or a sex worker who was at a party, and when they were alone on the balcony, he whipped out his penis and said, and that was like, I mean, just because they're sex workers doesn't mean that's all they do. I mean, it's disgusting. So apparently, that's what he did, and he justifiably got dropped, I think, by his agent and everyone else, because that's gross. But there are, I mean, there's a lot of stories, and I've heard from there's some there's a handful of women who've done some pretty terrible things that still haven't been held to account because no one's really willing to come out with it, or they're too invested in these women being successful. But it's even the stories I heard about them, nowhere near as bad as like say Weinstein or any of the guys. They've just done equally horrendous things to male actors. But when we talk about doing horrendous things to male actors, it's still we're talking less than a handful. We're talking about 3 women I've heard stories about, and I can't verify them because I'm not an actor. But nothing is to the level of what some of the men have done to other men in Hollywood. It's pretty disturbing and disgusting. And if I had evidence, I'd say something. I just have stories. So you have to kind of go, either it's real or we're still waiting for the right moment for the truth to come out. Yeah, I mean, Hollywood is an industry full of fragile egos that seem to be willing to do all sorts of things to establish that they have power. I mean, I've heard the Shannon Doherty, Alyssa Milano story before. Um, I mean, that wouldn't be the first time that actresses have gone off on each other like that. But there's also, it's like around the same time I was hearing that all sorts of really, really bad Shannon Doherty stories. So, I don't want to take sides in any sort of way with this, but I don't know that. Let's just say I've heard enough Shannon Doherty stories that Alyssa Milano may have had cause to want Shannon Doherty removed from the show, if that makes sense. But again, it's like these aren't my stories; these are stories I've been told. There's some light hatching in around the area where the seams are, so when I hatch over them, they'll feel like they're kind of pillowing out from the stitching. Now I got enough of the gray rendering here in this. I can start doing like again, I figured Nosferatu would be like filthy, like covered in grave dirt and spattered drops of blood. Um, yeah, I don't. The political spectrum doesn't matter to me as much as the honesty and the integrity of the person. I'm a lefty too, right? So, I mean, um, and honestly, I haven't seen any specific activism from Alyssa Milano. Hang on, no, I think I might be remembering something like that. I think she's like, isn't she like the secret PETA supporter or something? Is that her? All right, Eddie, have a great time. Yeah, I'm not gonna be a big fan of like with Alyssa Milano. I think I saw her say some post some stuff that was a little too far out there, but I can't remember enough. Unlike stories from other people, like the other stuff we talked about. So it's like, yeah, I'm not too comfortable bashing on her there. Like if someone has like real recollections of it, other than just a political position, yeah, go for it. But I got nothing. Here we go. Yeah, I'm probably going to wrap this up at 8:30 again, so I'm going to see how much I can get done. I don't think I'm going to be able to do the window. That's going to be super tedious and maybe a little dull. I think what I might do is I might render down through the sleeve, um, knowing that I'm going to be doing all sorts of other rendering across. The reference for this is from um, I think 5 or 6 different photos. I got like a photo that has his hand, so I drew the hand based on that. There's a photo where he's looking, it's blurry as hell, so I did my best with it. Where he's looking off to this side, and there's another photo of a three-quarter pose of him. So it's the usual thing, like with illustration, where you're trying to assemble your drawing from like valid references, but not just copy one photo. Which unfortunately I've had been in the position where I had to just work from the one photo. Not great, not a great situation when you're. It feels like so derivative. You just caught like if I'm just doing a study, that's fine. I'll happily do a study from like one photo. But if you're doing something which should feel like an original piece of work, put it together, man. Build it. So that's what I did. Is there something wrong with your heart, Ninja? Yeah. The goal is to get a nice gradual and go into near black here. Oh, COVID is terrible. I ended up getting, apparently it's not uncommon. Second time I got COVID, I got foot neuropathy, which apparently is only supposed to happen if like you're really badly diabetic. Um, so uh, part of me is hoping that it's like temporary because apparently a lot of things that happen with long COVID are so far temporary conditions. But I'm also hearing that some people, nope, they're stuck with their stuff with for life, and it's like, ugh, not a fan of like my toes feeling a little numb or suddenly painful from like nerves acting up. So I'd like that to go away. There's like a long list of things like apparently gluten aggravates neuropathy and artificial sweeteners. So I've been cutting back on artificial sweeteners like crazy, reducing the amount of bread I'm eating. Although I saw a recipe for like an Italian style sandwiches where you use the heel of a loaf of bread and then you throw the meatballs in it so it doesn't go everywhere. So I tried making one of those today. Meatballs are good. I cut the bread too short, so everything kept falling everywhere because I didn't make it long enough. tube of bread for my sandwich. But wow, way to make this about me. Um, but yeah, it's cutting down on a lot of things. Hopefully, hoping not to catch COVID again. 'Cause who knows what'll happen with like. I think I might have had it 3 times. So I think I say I'm not sure because none of the times that I'm pretty sure I've had COVID did I test positive for it. Um, which is also frustrating. Apparently, I should have gone into the hospital because the home tests um, aren't that uh, accurate. That's what I was going for. I was going for the accurate. That's the word. It's the magic word. I'm going to jump up to no. I'm going to finish. I'm going to finish the shoulder and arm with the 1, and then I'm going to jump up to the 0.3 for rendering most of the rest of it because that'll get to the darker value a lot faster and better. I'll probably go over this part again into the shadow part. And what I might do is, since I'm going to be rendering into the brick and everything, I might end up painting out a highlight on the shoulder when I'm done. But I want to see what it looks like when I get there. I did see the Renfield movie. I mean, it was enjoyable. I understand why it flopped. There wasn't anything so, oh my God, this is great. It had some great moments in it. I mean, vampires ripping off limbs and beating people to death with the bloody stump. Always wanted to see that. That's like such a common D&D thing. um, but yeah, it was. I enjoyed it. I love Nicolas Cage's turn as the vampire again. Um, but yeah, I if it was a little bit stronger, it went a little too easy, and I think it was a hard sell for the market that we're in right now in terms of like finding like a really really clever vampire movie. Okay, so that's looking about right in terms of value. Let me get that shadow part darker, and I'll be using the 0.3. And the wonderful thing about jumping up to 0.3 after rendering everything with the 01 is it brings it really, really close to black, but it's still a tiny, tiny. I'm going to put it up. It gets into focus. See these tiny, tiny little bits of white? Those matter, especially if this became a color piece. Allowing that little bit of color to show through. Not a big deal. I don't think a lot of people notice it when I do that stuff, but I notice it. It allows the blacks to have some color in them instead of like just being dead. And considering how much I add textures and all sorts of stuff, I want that little bit of color to bleed through in all but the areas where I really want it to be black. Like you can see there's like super solid blacks here around the Nosferatu, and they're going to be super solid blacks and around. But there's going to be a lot of splatter. There's going to be a lot of like other ink effects. And for me, it's important to get that little bit of white to remain popping through. And when I'm hatching, I try and allow myself to do hatching along the curve that my wrist or elbow take. So, while everyone should really, really draw from their shoulder, um, I do kind of like a combo where I move my wrist a little bit, my elbow a little bit, and it saves too much wear on the wrists. Yeah, 20 years ago, I think the big problem we're facing right now culturally is in the shadow of the streaming wars that we literally just came out of. There's just too much content. Um, we had so many. We had this brief window where we had Netflix, the major networks, HBO, and people were starting to put real money into YouTube or streaming movies. And right at that point, there looked like there was going to be an explosion of low budget web movies and stream serial stories and stuff like that. And then Disney and Apple and Paramount all decided we really got to dig into streaming because HBO is Netflix is eating our breakfast here. And and if you're going to do a streaming service, you need stuff that attracts an audience. And so everyone suddenly was spending a fortune on new TV shows, new movies, everything. And that meant we just had everything. I mean, just think, when was the last time we've had this many good movies that people don't talk about? And it's like I just saw The Dead Don't Hurt with Viggo Mortensen, his second directorial turn, and it's a great movie. But it's one of how many great movies? And it's a Western, and it's coming out the same week as Kevin Costner's really pretty but largely senseless Horizon. And it looks like Horizon got all the news, so no one's talking about Vigo's great little like indie Western. That's so much better than Horizon. I mean, it's like when was the last time we had two good Westerns out? And I say good advisedly with the Costner thing because it might hold up when he's still a good filmmaker. He might turn it into something worth watching by the time he gets the second one out. Who knows if he'll ever get to make the third? But The Dead Only Hurt is a freaking gem. No one's talking about it, or they're talking about it, and I'm not seeing it. It's just a great little sad. It's a sad, elegant little Western. Whereas Horizon is big, bombastic. It's almost like, remember the biblical epics they used to make in the 60s and 50s, like Ten Commandments. It's like the Ten Commandments version of a Western. It's big, and he knows it's a big movie, and it's got set pieces in it that only should exist in really, really big movies. I'm gonna do this solid black here. Let that peek out from under the rendering. This is all going to go into real deep black. Oh, yeah, I got it was about to place that one spot um in the middle of nowhere. That's the point of conflict. Um and I got that pretty early on, considering that how the opening bit went, how it was like this place of recurring ruin for everyone who lives there. I mean, there's a ruined church there before the first two people are found dead. That shouldn't be a spoiler because it's the opening scene essentially. Um, and I get it, but if you're going to do that storytelling approach and you're going to do it in the delivery system that doesn't work for it, I mean, Kevin Costner quit the top rated streaming TV show Western to make a Western that would be a lot better on TV, to my mind. I mean, that feels like a little like what the hell, man. Um, and he did so with such. This is a case where it's like I've heard stories that Costner only did Yellowstone because he didn't think it was going to last that long, and because basically he was just looking for something to fill his time while he got the money for Horizon, because this was apparently in the works for like years. So it's almost like he's spoiled by the success he had on Yellowstone. He's almost taking credit for it. When I don't know that his position in Yellowstone was the key element of its success. I think the absurdity of the violence and interactions of the secondary characters are more key to that. Um, that said, Yellowstone's a series. I think it's only had one good season. I think the second season was the only good season of Yellowstone, and everything else has just been exploitative TV, making people who work with horses and live in the middle of nowhere look stupid and violent, which may be true, but not necessarily the experience I've had. I think streaming rights. Well, he apparently still needs to raise the money for the third movie, and the word of mouth is not going to help it because he didn't market it very well. So, I mean, it's so hard to market movies anyway. I mean, it's like selling movies is like you think about, if you remember John Carter. It was the first time that people spent really, really big money on an Edgar Rice Burroughs project, and it was true to the material. And some of the early commercials looked really, really cool. To use Cashmere, which is one of my favorite Led Zeppelin songs, it gives it a nice alien feel, which was necessary for it. And it comes out, and it wasn't bad. It wasn't a bad movie. Do you think if it came out 20 years earlier with equivalent special effects, decent acting, decent directing, I think it would have been a huge hit. I think at the time it came out now, we have been spoiled by big budget, big special effects movies for so long. And so many of the things that came before were ripping off Edgar Rice Burroughs stuff, and in some way or not. I mean, how many secrets, alien empire stuff things have we seen over the years? And that was John Carter's big thing. Those aliens running everything. Once you got past the green forearm dudes and red chicks, it wasn't a bad movie. It didn't deserve the flop. People acting like it was like high art. No, it wasn't. But it it's the world we live in. Everything's shifting. I'm old enough when I was a kid to remember critics talking about Steve McQueen's Bullet. And the big selling point for Bullet was this amazing car chase that was in it. Now, car chases, which hadn't been done that much previously, because of the advancement in camera technology, they were suddenly able to shoot really, really energetic car chases. And Bullet did a good job of building that up. Great directing, great use of the tech at the time. But what immediately happened is everyone said, "Well, you know what? We know how to shoot that." So suddenly, everything, including TV shows, were shooting these really elaborate car chases. And I mean, it's like, so the Papillon, the Bullet car chase was done by the French Connection car chase. Um, and then there was another really awesome car chase and everything. Then you suddenly have comedies with massive car chases like Smokey and the Bandit, and it kind of kills the gimmick, the car chase gimmick. It's no longer exciting when you can see it every day. You know, you turn on Rockford Files and you got like this amazing car chase. Um, and it's just as well shot as the top movies 5 years earlier. But now, because it's TV, and there's so many people who've been out trained doing great jobs with car chases, it's no longer special. And I think that's kind of what happened to John Carter. I think we've had so many big budget alien world special effects, amazing movies, that it needed to be more than just a really good version of John Carter. It needed to be more than that. And I don't know if there was more to be found or mined from Edgar Rice Burroughs. You'd have to literally come up with something unique now. So it kind of makes John Carter redundant. It's like when people are talking about a new Conan movie or a new Conan TV series. I don't know if the people who want to do that want to do it because of the movies or because of Robert E. Howard's books. I think you could approach Conan going back to Howard's material in a really interesting way, but I don't know if you'd find an audience for it. I mean, there would be like the hardcore Howard audience for it, absolutely. But is that a commercial audience? Is that an audience where you can make your production value back? Because if you do Conan like Game of Thrones, um, you're tossing out a lot of Howard to get the Game of Thrones elements happening in there, and I think that could work. But you're still bastardizing Howard the way he's been bastardized all along. So, yeah, I have opinions. March is Jesus, everything January, February, March, April, anything released in those 4 months, if it makes money, everyone involved is surprised. Those are dump months. Those are to get the movies out when no one else is competing for audiences, because audiences are busy. College kids are finally realizing the semester's ending shortly. Um, Families are making plans for summer. They're not like taking time off from all the other stuff they're doing to see movies as much. Um, Winter, early spring are movie geek months. Those are the months where people who really, really, really love movies see movies. Huh. So I think you can see like where I'm headed with this. Let me take up one of my beaten up Poscas. That's what I did with the solid blacks around here. Using almost like a dry brush effect with this Posca. It'll fill in a lot of the blacks and make it merge into the black a little bit more. But on the raw artwork, it has this weird effect. Until I hit it with fixative, it has this weird effect of being super matte versus kind of a shiny ink layer. So when I hit it with the fixative later, it'll do what I need it to do. But in the meantime, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mask off the edges here, so I can actually fill in black. Actually, you know what? Before I do that, let's be smart about this. Let me do this hand. Get this hand up to a level where I can ink it. Time ways. All right, almost. Begging for a new tip, but it gives a good effect. Yeah, it's beat up. I like beat up brushes and beat up markers because they give a different finish. So that's kind of like I mean, I have new ones. I think I've pulled out how many markers and pens and stuff I buy when I buy them. So I have like a bunch of Poscas ready to go. But this is about, I want that beat up marker tip. If I just want a clean edge, I'll pull out one of the other ones. I think I've already started another Posca that's just sitting over to the right of me in my big mess of markers and pens and ink and brushes and everything. I'll finish outlining the hand. Maybe I'll render the hand. I'll go a little past 8:30. Oh, I didn't draw that claw. There we go. That'll do it. Coat is going to be the one here. All right, cool. Saw something I wanted to touch up here a bit. Black dot. It's going to go black. That'll go black. All right, so this will all be. Sorry to go silent when I'm like thinking through like how to best render an area. It's like it's all cross hatching, and I usually start with like a formula like X. Right, so I'll do this, and I'll do this to make sure I get that kind of like neutral pattern landing down there, and then I'll do like a slight angle off of that. Another slight angle off of that, and it allows me to build up that tone, but I have to start with that base tone first. I'm going to go around, draw a heavier black line around the hand. just so the cross hatching doesn't mess up the shapes as much as I'm worried they might. If I do like a solid black line, I can even use, which one am I use? Here we go. I can use this pit, brush pen, because it's a firm tip and it allows me a lot of control. So I'm going to do a nice thick line right around the whole of the hand. So that means I can actually get a nice little bit of, reduce the noise right up against the lines of the hand. So if I render in them, they'll still stand out from the coat. I think we can go in on top of that with to get more of a solid dark. I've been fighting off an infection all this week on antibiotics right now. It should be taken care of, I guess. But oh boy, am I tired. But I want to finish this hand before I go off stream, even though I'm past 8:30. Fapcast. Fap away, my friend. Fap away. What I should do, hang on. I have the tape right here. Why don't I just use it as a mask so I can render right into the all right. I got the shadows around the hand. Now let's do the rendering of the hand proper. Oops. Probably going to do a little bit of white paint splatter on this when it's all done. paper here. If you've been around a while, you've seen this. It's my big, stupid Sharpie full of black paint. It fills blacks in so fast. You usually have to do 2 coats to get a nice, good coating, but it's definitely worth it because it's also really, it's almost as good as painting over as acrylic ink or India ink. Well, I want to do white effects over time. This is probably where I'll sign the piece. This nice little area here. And it does a dry brush effect really nicely. Yeah, I'm going to be stressing the logo too, by the way. Now I'll go in with a more controlled marker near the end to do the edges. Although I'm not too careful with the edges too often, especially if it's like a cover, because all the crops are going to be there. I don't have to worry about it. I get that paint out. This one might be dying. I might have to buy, I don't know, 10. It's a good number to buy these, so I never have to buy them again, or never have to think about buying them for at least a year. Yeah, I think this is running low. I think I've gone through 5 this year. Honestly, that's where that number came from. But the wonderful thing about this is I can mask off this with some Frisket or something, and then I can just do like kind of nice sloppy dry brush going in towards the light area here. Oh God, no. If you could, if you want to be master art world, you got to draw like Jose Luis Garcia Lopez or any of the other, like, oh my God, so many masters out there who just drew so amazing. Juan Jimenez, oh God, so many, Neil Adams. The list is forever. All right, so this is about as far as I'm going to get tonight. I'm going to finish it this week. Next week, I'm not sure. Again, we're running into a situation where I don't know what I'm going to draw next week. Nosferatu is stupidly fun. I might try and do a replacement Conan for the Conan I fell out of love with, or I might do something for We Bring Only Death. If I can't find the other one over the course of this week, I might do a new We Bring Only Death piece. But I think I also have to start getting ready to promote the next Coven book this October. So maybe I should do more work on that. I got a whole pile of it, like just so close to being finished. I just gotta dig into it and then send it to my flatter. All right, so thanks for everyone for popping in. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you want to support me more directly, I have my $1 a month Patreon where you get to see behind the scenes stuff. You get to see stuff earlier. You get to see a whole bunch of covers. In fact, I did an alt cover for Babs, the new series from Ahoy. And I think I posted that like months ago, and that Ahoy still hasn't shared it because I think the first issue hasn't even come out yet. So there's like lots of situations where you get to see stuff like months in advance or even just a couple of days in advance, but you always get the early stuff. I'm a lot more approachable for questions there, even though a lot of people aren't asking me a lot of technical questions. I'm always trying to be open for any questions you guys want to ask. There's a book I shot a video of like a few weeks ago that I wanted to do as a giveaway, but the video sound quality was so terrible I have to do it again. But yeah, so there's going to be a lot of giveaways. Basically, the best comment on why someone should have something gets it. So I did that with some Blackwing pencils, and no one actually wanted the Blackwing pencils. Which like no one wanted $40 worth of pencils for just coming up with a good answer. C'est la vie. But you also get advanced notices like what's going up on my art shop when I can do that. My Patreons got a full week to think about getting a copy of the City of the Dead with a drawing in it before I went public with it. Things like that. So there are perks. Oh, I made a little accidental mark there. There are perks to being my Patreon, and it's only $1 a month. There is a tier. It's all sold out right now. Where you pay $25 a month, but at the end of the year, you get an 11x17 commission of your choice. There's been a few people asking about it, but no one actually said yes, put it up. Because I'm thinking, it's like if they're far enough apart, I can actually add some more. I was thinking about it's been at least 6 months, so I'm thinking I could add like another 2-3 slots if people are interested. But it's a great way to buy a big commission piece from me without paying it all at once. So yeah, I'm on Instagram, Richard Payson Instagram, Bluesky, Kara, all the usual socials. So if you want to find me there. But Instagram is kind of like the most, even though Instagram's a horror show right now, it's still the easiest place to put artwork. But everything there has to be censored and glazed and all that stuff because of the AI scraping. Yeah, so you guys have an amazing week. Thank you for popping on, asking questions, chatting. I love the chat. And hopefully I'll see all of you next Sunday. I might do another Conan night. I might do something. I might do a Batman. I haven't done Batman for a while. I did that Batman painting a while ago. Maybe I should do a Batman piece. Anyway, I'm babbling. I'm tired. You guys have a great week, and hopefully I'll see you all next Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Night, folks.